you go. Oh, I see notes from last time. I like that.
Oh,
I like that. It's fantastic. All right. Hello, everybody. We got butts and seats again. This is a record. This is 5 workshops in a row with butts and seats. I'm feeling it. And last night for our Wednesday weekly workshop, we had butts and seats. Maybe we should call it 6 in a row. But today we're going to talk about protein. And my goal with this workshop is to make sure we go over a lot of the basics and that I really highlight how many wonderful things protein does for us. The biggest goal being that it makes it easier for us to want to eat protein consistently because we'll see how good it is for us. Hey, friend, welcome. We got Tracy. Welcome, Tracy. All right, let's start at the top of the handout here. The basics. First, protein is used by the body for structural and hormonal health. A couple of times throughout this workshop, we'll go over how different proteins and different parts of proteins are really important to make sure your body makes different hormones related to things like muscle growth, bone growth, brain function, all that good stuff. This is one that people mix up a lot. Protein is not a fuel source like carbohydrates and fat. Carbs are quick fuel, fats are long, slow-burning fuel. Another way to think about that, if you're making a campfire, the kindling is the carbs, it burns quick. Fat is those big logs that keep it burning long. Protein isn't fuel like that. It's more so directions. It's more how to start the fire, what shape to stack the wood in, what kind of fire pit are you putting it in, that kind of thing. Protein contains directions to build tissues like muscle and bone. Part of that is that hormonal thing I just mentioned a minute ago. A big thing that comes up for us when we're working with people who are dealing with osteoporosis or osteopenia is they are often protein deficient. So their body is not getting directions to build dense bone. They can take calcium all day, but if they aren't getting directions to put that calcium to use, then it's unlikely they're actually going to grow bone. Protein is made up of amino acids. I drew this in the last workshop, but I should draw it again. If we're looking at it like protein is a house, the individual parts of what make up the house, if the house is made out of bricks, every one of those bricks is a different amino acid. And you put enough of them together, and you ultimately build a house. Each amino acid has unique functions. So each one of these bricks has a unique thing that it does. I have all those listed out in this handout, so we'll go over that. And different protein sources provide different amounts of protein and synergistic nutrients. This one's a really big deal. I tend to upset a lot of vegetarians and a lot of vegans when I go over this, because a lot of plant-based protein sources, the amount of protein that they have in there is nowhere near the amount of protein your body actually keeps after you eat that. And a big part of that is the synergistic nutrients in there. All right, any questions on the basics before I keep going? No? Let's do this. Amino acids. There are over 500 different amino acids in nature. Good news, we don't have to talk about all of them. The most important amino acids are the ones incorporated into protein. In protein, there are 20 different amino acids. We could get very technical and say there are 22 different amino acids if we want to, but for the sake of this workshop, 20 is plenty. I have them all listed there. If you look at them closely, you'll recognize some of them, because you'll see things like glutamine or glutamic acid in different foods. If you've bought protein powders before, often all 20 of these amino acids are listed on the side of the container. Now, there are 3 different categories when it comes to amino acids, so let's break it down into those 3 categories. There are essential amino acids, and these are the ones that your body cannot make. The only way you get amino acids is from food or from supplements, and there are 9 of them. They are histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. Don't worry, there will not be a quiz at the end of this. You don't have to memorize those. There are a number of different products on the market that contain those essential amino acids. because so many people are deficient in those. And these are the ones that we can't make. We have to ingest them. Good news is most of the protein sources that I'm going to recommend for you today contain all 9 of the essential amino acids. Questions so far on the first page? No. And online, if you have a question, just activate your camera and shout it out. I got the speakers turned up. All right, next page. Next category of amino acids are called non-essential. And the human body can make these, and they're found in food. So despite the category's name and what it implies, you do need these non-essential amino acids to carry out functions. The list of these is longer, and you need them. You can make them, but only if you're eating those essential amino acids. Now that's a little tricky. So what happens for a lot of people is they say, oh, I get it. The essential amino acids, there's 9 of them, and they are more important than these non-essential amino acids. And I would say that's not true. They're just different. The essential ones are called essential because you have to ingest them to get them. The non-essential are called non-essential because you don't have to ingest them. But they are important. We'll talk about their actions in just a minute here. And the third group of amino acids is called conditional amino acids. And this is a very interesting group. A lot of people experience conditional amino acids on a daily basis without even knowing it. This category includes non-essential amino acids that the body needs at specific times, hence the name conditional. The human body makes these amino acids during illness or stress. So anybody think that they experience these amino acids on a regular basis, right? Stress, illness, yeah, probably, right? Shortest list of all of them, there's 7 of them. If we look more closely at them, I'll give you an example. The first one listed is called arginine. When we talk about arginine, we're going to talk about how it helps our body have healthy blood flow. Well, during high times of stress, one of the most common things that happens is our blood pressure goes up. If our body makes arginine and releases it, that can help lower our blood pressure. So these conditional amino acids will be created by the body during times of stress or illness to help deal with that situation. Pretty cool. All right, now we're about to deep dive into amino acids. Any questions bubbling up before we deep dive? So we're about to hit it. Yeah.
How does the body make amino acids?
Oh, really good question. Yeah, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I like the question. We're gonna try it. How does the body make these non-essential or conditional amino acids? So different amino acids will have different shapes chemically. So let's say one of them is shaped like that. Okay? And let's call this number 1 just for the sake of ease. Your body has a group of these, and what it needs to do is it actually needs to make one of these conditional amino acids that has a slightly different shape. See how it has like 2 antennae instead of just 1 antenna? What your body will do is it'll take this one, cleave that off and add it to another one of these and drop it on there, over there. It'll take pieces of other amino acids after it breaks them apart, and it'll reassemble it differently. If you can think of Legos, right? The Lego kit comes with a design in mind, but you can take it apart and reassemble it however need be. The body can do that with amino acids also. It can cleave pieces and attach them to other ones. That's a good question. And that's the magic of the essential amino acids, because those essential ones, those ones we have to eat, they are really easy for the body to cleave and reshape. All right, first amino acid I want to talk about is called histidine. This substance is essential for proper functioning of the immune, digestive, and reproductive systems. Histidine also plays a role in red blood cell development, healthy sleeping and wake cycles, tissue, and nerve cell maintenance and growth. Holy smackers, that's a big list. That's some major stuff. So getting histidine is a really big deal. On the list. It's the first one listed under essential amino acids. So that's one of those that's involved in a lot of things. We can't make it, we have to eat it. Second one is called isoleucine. This amino contributes to muscle growth and function, energy, immune system support, and the production of hemoglobin, ensuring your tissues are nourished by the blood in your oxygen. Isoleucine is an amino acid that's really popular among athletes, especially strength and powerlifting, but also bodybuilders, because of how important it is for two things related to what they do: muscle growth and immune system health. Because lifting heavy weights can put some stress on your immune system, but when you get plenty of isoleucine, it helps to counter that. All right, next one. It's called leucine. Don't worry, it's not a typo. I don't know who came up with these names, but there's a lot of repeated words and similar sounding words. And yeah. So leucine, we need it to help regulate blood sugar levels, to make proteins, to repair muscles, to heal wounds, and produce growth hormones. This one is also very popular among athletes, especially before bed, because taking a good dose of leucine before bed can increase growth hormone levels. That does a lot for us. Years ago, I worked with a young woman. She was 6 or 7 at the time. She had very stunted growth, and part of her protocol was taking a leucine-rich supplement before bed to help her kind of catch up. She had been the shortest in her class since preschool. And by the end of the school year that I worked with her, she was middle of the pack. And I was like, cool, that's just what we want. Next one is lysine. So strong bones and skin are built with lysine. This amino acid supports absorption of calcium. It also produces collagen and elastin, two major proteins necessary for skin health. Lysine also maintains energy levels and the immune system. The stress hormones epinephrine and norepinephrine are kept in check by lysine. So, a lot to unpack there. First, if you have questions about collagen or elastin, everybody who has butts and seats right now is here for this workshop. We have a whole separate workshop about collagen. So you can ask us for that handout. We always have copies floating around here. I want to talk about how lysine helps the absorption of calcium and how that relates to the immune system. All right, so when we supplement with lysine, it helps boost calcium levels. When calcium levels go up, our immune system goes up and fights especially viruses better. There's certain parts of our immune system that are better developed to handle viruses. That part really loves having calcium. So when you take lysine and you boost those calcium levels, your immune system can grab some of that calcium and it helps it fight viruses. People use lysine very commonly when they have cold sores, and it helps to remove cold sores. And the magic of that is it's helping the body absorb calcium and put calcium to work. Now that's one of those, when you look at the essential amino acids list, it's on there again. So somebody not getting enough protein is going to be stunted in how much calcium that their body can put to use and how effective their immune system can be against viruses. Does that make sense? All kind of starts with lysine. Next one is methionine. This amino acid often plays a role in weight loss because it assists with detox and metabolism regulation. Methionine can also help with tissue growth and mineral absorption, particularly selenium and zinc. Methionine has a lot of action in the liver. It's also one part of what makes creatine. And the more they research creatine, the more they see it is not just about muscle health and muscle growth. There are 3 amino acids in creatine, and as they come up, I'll put them on the list. Methionine. So when people take creatine, they get a dose of methionine and thus help their liver and help their body absorb selenium and zinc. Pretty cool. Phenylalanine, which is a mouthful. Your brain uses neurotransmitters in its cellular communication network. It needs phenylalanine to do that. This amino acid encourages neurotransmitter production like dopamine. So if you want to have some feel-good stuff, you got to have plenty of phenylalanine. It also helps the body synthesize non-essential amino acids. There is a version of phenylalanine that's used in a really, really common product. And this product also has caffeine in it. But repeatedly, I've heard people say, when I use this product, even though it has less caffeine than a cup of coffee, my brain feels way more stimulated and awake and alert. And it's diet sodas. When you look at the side of the can, they'll tell you that they use phenylalanine in it. They're very intentionally giving you a hit of that because they know that it sparks up your brain and you're more likely to reach for another can of Diet Coke because you're going to start to associate that lit up brain feeling. Yeah, pretty clever. Pretty clever. Good news is it's an essential amino acid, so if you eat enough protein, you wouldn't need to drink Diet Coke. Threonine is the next one, and this one's been popular recently because it encourages collagen and elastin production. There's also a couple of different laboratories that have figured out how to bind threonine to magnesium. So magnesium threonate is very, very popular right now. Yeah. Threonine is also involved in fat metabolism and our immune system. Its biggest role, though, is with collagen and elastin. Tryptophan is the next one, and this is what hangs up a lot of people about collagen, so we're going to deep dive tryptophan a little. Tryptophan helps regulate the circadian rhythms that help you sleep at night. Tryptophan also contributes to the production of the mood-boosting hormone serotonin. Very cool stuff. Who knows what foods are rich in tryptophan? Turkey. And you used to drink a glass of blank before bed to sleep?
No.
Milk, because they're both rich in tryptophan. So you would eat turkey or drink milk, or if you know that Seinfeld episode where George babysits the rich kid who has this room of incredible toys, and George wants to play with them. So for lunch, he feeds him this really thick turkey sandwich and this huge glass of milk, so the kid will fall asleep and take a nap. And then George gets to play with all the toys. Pretty ridiculous, but scientifically like effective. Like it's a valid thing. Yeah.
Is there a reason why they recommend the warming of the milk? Does that release
It's
something in it, or is it just more?
No, that's a really good question. Why would we warm the milk before bed?
Yeah.
It's just more calming, more soothing.
Yeah.
Less work for a digestive tract because when you drink cold stuff, your body has to warm it up before it can move on. Yeah. Now, with collagen, we're going to talk about this. So I'm going to take down Lysine's info so we can talk tryptophan. All right, so tryptophan. First of all, it's a word that I really appreciate because it has a hard P and then a soft P in it. And I just enjoy whenever you get those tryptophan. So collagen, and gelatin for that matter, they have none. They do not have any tryptophan in them whatsoever. So for a lot of people, the reason they say avoid collagen is because of this lack of tryptophan. They say it is an incomplete protein. We know that tryptophan is an essential amino acid. We do not make it, we have to eat it. But most people in their standard diet have an overabundance of tryptophan. So incorporating a certain amount of collagen and gelatin into your daily eating can actually help to balance out that ratio of too much tryptophan in relation to the other 19 amino acids. So when you hear somebody say collagen is not a complete protein, that is accurate, and it's still incredibly important because the one thing it's lacking is something we typically have an overabundance of. So this can help balance us out. All right, we've covered a bunch of aminos already. Did any questions bubble up? No? Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Next one is valine. Valine supports energy, muscle function, and growth. When you take valine with isoleucine and leucine, those are called branched chain amino acids, or BCAAs for short. They are all essential amino acids. They are all heavily involved in the creation of muscle. So they're really popular with athletes. Valine, isoleucine, and leucine. Okay? Those three, typically what people do is they take 3 to 5 grams of those before exercise, and it really boosts muscle performance, and it tends to help you recover from that exercise also. All right, now we're going to get out of the essential amino acids. So far, all the ones I've covered have been essential amino acids, ones you have to eat in order to get. Now, we're going to talk about alanine. This amino acid is needed for healthy liver function. It's so important for liver function that medical doctors measure a related factor in your blood to make sure that they can check in on how your liver is doing. Arginine is the next one. This amino acid benefits your heart health. Arginine releases nitric oxide in your body, which dilates blood vessels so blood can flow more freely. So if you were looking down a blood vessel, right, like looking down a hose, looking down a straw, if it gets constricted, there's going to be more pressure. It's going to be more difficult for your body to move blood easily. When you take arginine, it helps dilate those blood vessels and open them up, and it's easier for blood to flow through all those areas. That's really important for athletic performance, but there's another thing that's a really big deal for, and that is the aging human brain. If we keep the blood vessels in the brain more dilated, we can get more nutrient into the brain, we can get more oxygen into the brain. That will help the brain perform as it ages. Very important. Next one is called asparagine. This one helps vascular health. You need to make it, you need it to make other non-essential amino acid, glutamine, which builds healthy blood vessels. It also helps create muscle tissues and enzymes. So this is one not a lot of people supplement with. It's found in a lot of animal-based proteins in an amount, even with our modern food supply, that is adequate. Aspartic acid is the next one. This amino acid also regulates the nervous system, various cellular functions, and hormone production. There's quite a few different testosterone boosting supplements out there. And many of them contain something that's called D-aspartic acid. And that is just an isolated form of that amino acid. When we take extra of that, it can boost testosterone production in men and women. So for all things libido, muscle growth, concentration, D-aspartic acid can help build testosterone levels, which helps with those topics. Cysteine. This amino acid got really popular during COVID. You need it for healthy skin, hair, and nails because it helps you produce collagen, so that's a big deal. It also benefits the skin because it has antioxidant power. This is the COVID part, which reduces oxidative stress on cells caused by free radical damage. One of the things COVID is really good at is making a lot of garbage in your body. Cysteine helps your body deal with the stress of that garbage, and it helps your liver to clean that garbage out. We typically hear about cysteine in a form that's called N-acetylcysteine, NAC, or NAC for short. The supplement's been around for decades, but during COVID, its popularity spiked because we found that it helped counter the effects of COVID. Glutamine is the next one. In addition to building blood vessels and muscle tissue, glutamine is also important for your immune system and intestinal health. You can grab most intestinal health products off the shelf, and you'll see there's a dose of glutamine inside of it. Even Enzicor by Standard Process, which is an enzyme supplement, has a dose of glutamine in it because it's really big on helping rebuild damaged gut tissue. That was glutamine, and here's something that's similar. It's glutamic acid. This one's slightly different. It's a variation on glutamine. It supports intra-brain communication. And I always like to explain this to people because right now in your life, I know you know people who seem to only have half a brain, but we should still talk about the whole brain communicating. So if you look at the front of a human brain, it's kind of gray, but I don't have a gray marker. There's hemispheres. There's two halves to it, and there's an opening in between the two halves. And when your brain wants to send and receive info, info that the right brain has to the left, and left brain to the right. For it to send that info back and forth is glutamic acid dependent. We need to have that so our brain can actually talk to itself. This one we have to be careful with, though. If we get too much of this one, which is hard to do, but we can do it, it can overstimulate that and create all sorts of havoc in the brain with things like attention span. There's also things you can do nutritionally to decrease the body's sensitivity to glutamic acid. We do it a lot with people who have attention deficit issues, people who have hyperactivity, and people who have obsessive compulsive disorder. All right, the next one is called glycine. This one's a big deal because it helps us create the antioxidant glutathione. Glutathione fights free radical damage and disease. It also supports strong muscles with the production of creatine. And it's part of what makes collagen. Glycine is incredibly abundant in collagen, protein powders. So if you want to make sure you are boosting something that your body makes to protect itself, you want to make sure that you eat plenty of glycine. Next one is proline. Plays a big role in heart function, collagen production, and metabolism regulation. Proline is often sold as an isolated powder. It's sold by a number of different cardiologists or in a number of different heart health supplements out there because it has been studied and proven to support heart function. If you have somebody in your life dealing with a blood pressure issue or a heart health issue, please consider figuring out how much proline they get in a day, and we can talk about it to see if it's enough to actually help their heart. You may need to supplement it. Serine is the next one. Contributes to healthy sleep patterns by supporting the central nervous system. Research indicates serine has the potential to help manage cognitive disorders such as Alzheimer's disease. So this is another example of the aging brain really needs adequate protein intake. We've got to make sure that even if somebody is 70, 80, 90 years old, that we're still feeding them protein and that we're making sure they are digesting the protein. If you have questions specific to, am I digesting protein? A couple of months ago, we did a workshop on digestion. Do you remember, was that a Thursday or a Saturday one? I feel like it was Saturday because I went over a ton of supplements to help us digest proteins, carbs, and fats. Okay, well, we have that listed up on our YouTube. So if you have further questions about digestion, we got a video on that. Just ask. Last but not least, tyrosine. This amino acid plays a major part in the production of adrenaline, in thyroid hormones, dopamine, and the melanin pigment that gives your skin, eyes, and hair their color. So I'm going to ask you to consider this for just a minute. So that's a pretty good list. What color hasn't been getting attention today? We'll go with green. When we're talking about tyrosine. One of the things it has to do with is adrenaline production, so that's adrenal gland health. Quite a few different adrenal gland support supplements contain the amino acid tyrosine. It has a lot to do with thyroid hormones. It has a lot to do with dopamine, which is mood related, and then it has to do with skin. There's a pattern I've seen clinically about tyrosine. People who have very fair skin are very commonly dealing with 2 out of 3 of these things above here. Mood issues and adrenal issues, or thyroid issues and adrenal issues, whatever combo. And I believe that's partially related to the fact that the tyrosine affects the skin color and the hair color, and they don't have adequate tyrosine for the color of the skin and the hair. And they also don't have enough for things like their adrenal glands, their thyroid, or their mood. Yes, sir.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Absolutely. Thank you for checking first. If you're wondering if my 6-year-old son is cute, now you know. Okay. Questions on tyrosine. Do either of you know a pale-skinned person that deals with 2 out of 3 of these issues? Yeah? Isn't that kind of right? I can't, like, it's anecdotal, okay? Because I'm given, You? Yeah? Okay, cool. Even online knows it. I think about that, and I'm not trying to shame anybody who's fair-skinned. I married a fair-skinned woman, okay? Uh, but sometimes they just need to get additional tyrosine. They may just be deficient in it right out of the gate. We just got to boost those levels up. Very safe to supplement with it. We did it. Covered all the amino acids. The questions come up. And online, any questions come up? We'll check with Lori when she gets back. There's all sorts of stuff I see clinically like this. I'm like, oh, I see a connection there, see some overlap there again and again. All right, good. We're going to jump into peptides because this comes up a lot, and people have a lot of confusion about this word and what this word means. Sir.
Can we watch the video that you make it at home? Because when you said that,
Absolutely.
I was cute.
Yes.
I really thought
So a future YouTube star in the room. I'm going to finish this workshop now, sir, okay? Thank you. What a guy. All right, peptides. The best thing to understand about peptides is that it is a chain of amino acids, okay? So I drew some of these before. I'm going to draw a different shape this time. But if you put a bunch of amino acids all together in a certain chain, in a certain order, that is a peptide. And different peptides will signal different events in your body. There is a peptide for bone growth, which looks different and functions different from the peptide that signals muscle growth, which looks different and works different than the peptide that signals things like heart function. So whenever you see the word peptide, just know it's a chain of amino acids, and there's a bunch of different shapes and colors and sizes of peptides, and they all have a slightly different action to signal things in the body, like bone density, muscle function and growth, heart health, brain function, really critical stuff. Can you think off the top of your head, does it still say peptide on the outside of the collagen container? I know it used to. It still says collagen peptides? Because what's in there is chains of different amino acids from collagen. All right, last page. We talk about something called DIAS, and I'm definitely going to write this on the board. DIAS. It's an acronym. It stands for Digestible Indispensable Amino Acid Score. Here's what it tells us. It tells us when you eat 100 grams of protein, how much of it do you actually keep? With different protein sources, you will keep different amounts. Some of the best ones that I have on here are different animal source ones. Things like beef and egg, whey protein, all different animal source proteins. When you eat 100 grams of those animal source proteins, you keep between 92 and 99 of those grams. Sorry to say none of them are perfect. That'd be cool if they were, but they're not. That's a really good percentage. It's a really, really good percentage. That means you don't have to overeat. You don't have to ingest extra calories just to hit your protein goals. It also means efficiency. Your digestive tract and your kidneys don't have to deal with as much work to get protein. So that's animal ones. I should label that. Now, if we look at the plant proteins, when you ingest 100 grams of those proteins, your body actually keeps, depending upon the type that it is, 42 to 67 grams of the protein. It's a really big difference, right? Like that's a huge, you take the worst animal protein and it is still beating most of the plant proteins. There are a few that are outside of this range. It's perfectly made tofu is one of them, but perfectly made tofu involves washing it 4 times after soaking it 4 times in water for 8 hours each time. Nobody who's making tofu is actually doing that. That's the traditional recipe from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. Nobody's doing that anymore. So when I'm talking to clients about protein and I'm stressing the importance of animal-sourced protein, it's because I want you to actually keep more of the protein. I don't just want you eating and eating for very little beneficial outcome from it. I want maximum beneficial outcome. I'm not opposed to plant-sourced proteins. We just want to make sure that they are not our core protein sources. They're not going to be the ones we rely on the most because we just don't get that much from them. Examples are wheat protein, corn, peas, soy, other types of beans. Wheat protein, if you look at most breads, vital wheat gluten is added as an ingredient. And that does 2 things. It boosts the protein content in the bread, which they love to put on the label. 6 grams of protein per slice. But remember, you're only keeping between 42 and 67% of that 6 grams. That's not that hot. The other thing it does when you add vital wheat gluten to bread is it makes it hold its shape better, but it also holds its shape better as you try to digest it. So it's more stressful for your gut to break apart that bread than this bread that does not have vital wheat gluten added. And that is Dias. We did it. We made it through the papers. What kind of questions are coming to mind?
My first question
Yeah.
is then how much protein?
Oh, very good question. And online, we are running low on time. If we get booted, I apologize, but thank you for being here. All right, so how much protein? Really good question. All right. All right, so take your body weight in pounds, whatever that number is. Nobody in this room, not even you, sir, which please stay back. I don't want you on camera. Thank you. Weighs 100 pounds. We're going to use 100 pounds because that's going to have us doing some easy math, okay? If you are very inactive, you have a job where you sit at a desk all day, it's not particularly mentally taxing because remember, your brain uses protein also. You can very safely get away with doing 1/3 of your body weight in grams. So if you weigh 100 pounds, that would mean 33 grams of protein a day. Okay? That's for like a really inactive person, and most adults that I know are not inactive. Okay? The other thing is, if you're an aging adult, you may be less active, but you need more of those amino acids to help things like brain function and heart function as you age. So in that case, you're going to want to take your body weight and do half of it. So then you're talking about 50 grams of protein a day. So a 100-pound person would want 50 grams a day. A 200-pound person would want 100 grams of protein a day. Okay? If you have moderate activity and you use your brain a pretty good amount. But most people use their brain and are active. They do some critical thinking. They are considering things. And that's where you want to take your body weight and multiply it by 3/4. Okay? So a 100-pound person would want to get around 75 grams of protein a day. 200-pound person would want 150 grams of protein a day. The way that I get my protein in daily is across 4 different feedings on most days, unless I am fasting. And that way, when I'm trying to hit somewhere between 140 and 180 grams of protein, I'm splitting that up so I'm not getting huge doses. I'm not trying to do 60 or 70 grams of protein at each meal. Instead, I'm doing 35 or 40 grams of protein at each meal, 4 feedings a day. That makes sense? That answer your question?
Yep.
So you do some powerlifting, you would fall between the 0.5 and 0.75 ratio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, can you have too much? Some things, even if you're putting collagen powder or like protein powder, like,
Yeah.
can you do too much then?
Absolutely. In my experience, the too much point is when we exceed 2 grams per pound of body weight. So if a 100-pound person ate 200 grams of protein,
Yeah.
okay? If a 200-pound person ate 400 grams of protein, that's where we're going to start to bog down our system. Yeah. Most people, the max protein that they need for things like muscle growth, brain function, heart health, max is 1 gram for every pound they weigh. If you do that consistently, it's very unlikely you would ever need more protein than that, even for the most extreme physical and mental stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, 1 gram, say just 1 gram per body weight.
Yeah.
And is that just to maintain? Because then you get into all these different diet, weight loss,
Yeah.
muscle growth,
Yeah.
maintenance.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to go into it. But that's where my brain.
Yeah. When do we know to shift the amount of protein that we're having? If we were using, let's say, 1 gram per pound for a certain goal, when do we back off of that? And when would we know to reinstate that kind of thing? I rely heavily on the hair tissue mineral analysis for that. If somebody's doing an aggressive protein plan, like 0.75 grams per pound, I'm going to look at their hair analysis for certain markers, like the phosphorus level. If that level starts to go too high or starts to drop too low, I know that there's something going on with that person's protein intake. And that's when I would tweak that. Typically, because we're doing a hair analysis once or twice a year, that would be often enough to keep up with that person's protein intake needs. So all the protein, like fitness goals, for example, I'm not expecting people to reach those any sooner than 5 or 6 months. And then, great, we can do a hair analysis and see how your body's responding. Great, it's working, continue. Or, oh, that doesn't look right, let's tweak it. Yeah. Like that lab work for that. Yeah. Good question. Other questions coming up.
My question, other than like consuming a great collagen product that you sell here at TU Wellness,
What a plug!
how else can we get all these amino acids like in our foods? Is there a particular food that contains a big dose of some of this stuff? Or
Yes.
do you eat a variety of things that contain some of these things?
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like the idea of diverse protein sources, but then also all the high DIAS score proteins. The beef, chicken, salmon, egg, pork, whey. Those ones are richest in the essential amino acids and most amino acids. So you want to focus on high DIAS score, which are the animal source proteins. That's the best way, even in our modern world, that's the best way to get all these aminos. Yeah.
And with that, then is the veggies, whole grain, like that's the variety is still good in that? Because like, what if somebody just ate like you're meat, like carnivore diet?
Yeah, carnivore. Yeah.
Like, what if you just ate protein sources? Is that beneficial, or would that cause problems?
It's a really good question. That is probably its own entire workshop. There's a lot of validity to the carnivore diet, which is basically eating only animal product, eggs, meat, butter, stuff like that. It's a very popular guy who's written a book about the carnivore diet. His name is Paul Saladino, sorry. And he did Carnivore 2.0, where he actually discovered that eating a lot of fruit is really important with a carnivore diet. So when people are doing just animal products, I see there's a lot of benefit to that short term. When we start to look at it long term, even the most popular carnivore guide out there says add in some produce. Yeah. Did that answer the question? Cool. Okay, good. It was, because dude is super fit. He looks like he's in great shape. He looks younger than his biological age. He's sharp. And he was talking about how carnivore helped him achieve all that. And then all of a sudden he comes out and he was great. He was like, hey, I'm always continuing my research. I figured something out. It's going to upset a lot of you, but I have to tell you this. He's like, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night for the rest of my life if I don't bring this up. Then he was talking about eating 200 grams of fruit a day, which is like 160 grams of carbs. Yeah. And everyone's like, what? And he's like, check out the research. And he backed it up with science. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Actually, good news. 'Cause if I were to eat anything personally, it'd be meat and fruit. That's it.
Right? It doesn't sound that bad all of a
Okay,
sudden, right?
I'll probably do that.
He has videos of himself online sitting down eating a steak and then opening a papaya and eating it like an apple. I'm like, that really sounds good. Like that, I could do that. I would be okay with that. Other questions bubbling up. We lost our online people. Our free Zoom sesh ran out. Cool. Well, thank you for being here again. Thank you for watching. As always, when questions come up, we always have this info in our videos, our phone number, our email address. You can send us messages on Instagram or YouTube. We always want you feeling supported.